We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us this morning. As you see on the screen, we're talking about the Nashville Rescue Mission. Have you ever been over there or considered donating or helping? It's something you should consider. Glenn Cranfield's with us. He's the president and CEO of the mission. It's nice to have you on. And it's interesting. I said to myself, and you just brought it up during the break, that I've seen what I thought was a really well done and emotional for me commercial that's been running lately for the mission, where you have an individual, an older fella, pushing a shopping cart, clearly homeless, singing a Christmas carol. I guess he's singing "I'll Be Home for Christmas."
That's right. Yeah.
And then at the end of it, he looks up and there's the mission.
Yeah.
And it's great. Talk about that a bit.
It's a great story. It's a true story. He's actually a client at Nashville Rescue Mission who has he was doing very successful here in Nashville in the music industry, and then he had a physical disease that came about, and then that in itself led to some other decisions that he lost everything.
Mm-hmm. He was alone too, not a family.
He was alone. That's right. And he found himself on really difficult, hard time. He found himself really needing the services of the mission, and he came. And so then we kind of surrounded him and helping him. He still suffers with his illness. Mm-hmm. He was just released out of the hospital last week, and so he's back at the mission again, and he's doing well. And his heart, and you can see this in commercial. This is real. He understands this place really helps me and saved my life.
I did kind of wonder. I mean, as I saw it, and you'll see it if you watch on TV, and I'm sure it's running on Channel 5 and others. I was wondering, okay, now did they get an actor to do this? I'm thinking, surely not. This has to be, and I assumed it was someone really from the mission. And he's carrying a tune, and I just watched it. I thought it was terrific.
He's carrying a tune, and he's carrying it really well.
Well, yeah, as you said, he's got a history in music.
That's right.
But anyway, it's terrific. But that's the message that for a lot of these folks, especially, it hits home for a lot of us. The hardest time sometimes is the holidays.
That's right.
And if you have nothing, that's where you feel it the worst.
That's right. And you see something like this, an adult, an older man like this, it's an alcoholic or drug addict, or maybe you see a 30-year-old that's suffering with alcoholism or bad decisions, so forth, and we tend to look at them in that moment. Mm-hmm. There's a 30-year-old, there's a 50-year-old, that's what they're going through. But really what we need to do is what happened to that boy when he was 6? Mm-hmm. What happened when he was 12? So there's a lifetime of issues, a lifetime of decisions, abuse, and different things that have really drawn them and really kind of forced them to be into the area in which they are. And I know that we all make personal decisions, but then, there's abuse and there's all kinds of things that cause them to be hurt and cause them to be in the situation they're in. And so what our job is then is really get involved in their life, figure out what those things are, figure out what the hurts are, counseling and dedication and commitment, and then help move them out of that, and so they can live productively and successfully.
Yeah, that's the goal, and there have been a lot of success stories. Let's go to Mike. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Happy Thanksgiving up that way, bud.
You too. What's on your mind, Michael?
Hey, I'm the guy that's been really wearing you out about what I want to start up in Nashville with the homeless through my church. And I know you said you'd come down and do a story with us, but I'd like to ask the gentleman you have on your show today, if I come up that way with my church and everything, because they let us come up there and give out flyers from a church called Mission 615. I don't know if he's familiar with us coming up there on the weekends, and we pick up people at Wednesday Inn and we bring them out to our church on Charlotte and feed them. But my question for the gentleman you have with your show today, if we come up, there's any way I maybe could meet with him and maybe we could hook up and knock out no more homeless in Nashville and work together maybe on the project I was telling you about, how God has called me to Nashville to build a big building to help like what he does, house them and help them get jobs and education. And Nick, I was also wanting to know, I work at a school here in Humphreys County, and I'll be working for about 3 more weeks, and I'll get out for 2 weeks, and I just wondered if I could come up, maybe have a few minutes of your time and meet my pastor, and maybe you could plan to come down and do a story with us and everything, and I'll hang up, and I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you for your call on that. Yeah, and we can talk more about that. Don't just show up at the station. Not a good idea, but call and you and I will talk. But yeah, he's called before, and his heart's really in the right place. He's a good man. Do you work with area churches or organizations that either bring folks to you or maybe work in terms of helping feed the folks that come to the mission?
Absolutely. We work with a lot of churches around the Middle Tennessee area, and even other startup ministries or agencies as far as Clarksville, Murfreesboro, Lebanon, people that have a heart like this gentleman said, hey, I want to do something, and I want to do it in my community.
Yeah.
And so we really serve as a resource for them to help them get on the ground, get them going, talk about some of the hurdles they may need to jump through, and some of the difficulties about all that, but then also provide all the resources and help we can. We're in competition, but not with each other. We're in competition against homelessness and poverty.
Right. That's the thing. I'm glad you said that. It's not like you're like, I don't want someone else to get into this homeless. No, you want that.
Absolutely.
And you all work together. So definitely, Michael, and you know where he's at. He's at the mission there if you want. Well, I wanted to ask you, so the changing demographic. Years ago, the stereotype of the folks at the mission was some older fella, maybe in his 50s or 60s, drinking all the time, homeless, just rough and tumble kind of guy that would go to the mission. There were some of those. But with time, it came to the point where, the demographic, sadly, in my opinion, got younger and younger. Really heartbreaking when you see children. Now, the mission was not a place, in my opinion, and I'm not sure it is to this day, for young children.
Right.
And so you have other provisions in place. Do you want to talk about the demographic and how it's changed and if it's still changing?
It has changed, and you're exactly right, Nick. And so it is younger, and there are now women and children.
Yeah, young families.
Absolutely. We have about 85 children at the rescue mission right now at the Women and Children's Center.
Okay, and that's the difference.
That is the difference.
Women's and children. You try to keep them with their, and it's a little different. Not that it's bad at the regular mission, but just for young kids. I was looking around, a lot of adult males walking around, which is fine, but being someplace, what would you say the biggest difference is between those two centers?
Well, the needs of women and children are different than the needs of men.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot more emotional counseling that takes place. There's a lot more in the area of mental health regarding depression, things of that nature. But there's a lot of abuse in the Women and Children's Center. Sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and so we really target differently over there. And also trust. At the men's center, they kind of, shuffle along and can do their thing. But the women's center, we have to develop trust, and with our men and with our female staff, and so that's, those are some of the big differences. But it's very secure and very safe. We have a very, very good security department there at the women's center for obvious reasons. And so, but the demographic has changed, and so we have about 85 children at the rescue mission at the Women and Children's Center right now, and that just breaks my heart to think of a child 6 years old at the holiday time and Thanksgiving and Christmas spending the Christmas holidays at a shelter. But they're going to get love, they're going to hope and joy, and really all of our staff and volunteers and donors coming together to say, we know where you are, and we know that you're important. We love you, and we want to make this the best it could possibly be. It's a great Christmas for our kids, and we're excited about that. But you're right, the demographic has changed across the country. And so while the men continues to climb, and it continues to be the bigger majority of it, that we're seeing that women and children slowly increase each year.
Okay, I was going to say, you're saying, because Nashville is the it city. Yeah. Really, it's a wonderful place. People all around the country want to come here for a lot of good reasons.
Right.
So as we grow in general, I mean, there's going to come with that sometimes more homeless.
That's exactly right.
It's just going to happen. Maybe folks that come here and give it a run, and then they have hard times or whatever reason. Are you seeing then more coming in every year?
Yeah,
it is a fact. Now, and I'm not saying, do you think that's directly related to the fact that just this area's population is increasing, or if it wasn't increasing, would we still see more folks?
I think we may. It's really hard to separate that because we are the it city, and we are a magnet, and there are people that are drawn here, and so I think there may be a leveling off because you have those that leave the city, those that come to the city, and vice versa. But right now, it is just a magnet. So we're drawing people in, and we're drawing people all over the place. There are guys that are coming in, ladies that are coming in that are thinking, maybe I can find a job there because there's so much activity, so much going on. I don't have a job. Maybe I can get a job there. And so it draws everyone in from all spectrums of our social.
Now, when they get here and they're coming without a job, another thing we talk about the development, and you're right in the middle of it now. It's just a very, very hot area.
It is.
The Gulch. All right, if you want to pay, $800,000 for 500 square feet, okay, well, maybe you're a millionaire. You're certainly not homeless. How is the skyrocketing rent and costs of homes in this area affecting the homeless?
It's making a huge impact. The affordable housing issue in Nashville.
Not much of it. That was an issue for the mayor.
Absolutely, and we're going to address that. We're putting groups together and strategy tanks together and trying to figure out ways and incentives and things that we can do to accommodate that. But it is a huge issue, not just for the homeless, but for those that are working, that have jobs, and 2 or 3 children, and just trying to make it. And so the affordable housing issue is huge. The rent here in Nashville is skyrocketing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just blown. And so I was wondering, people there, they lose a job. And many of us are a paycheck away from being in real dire straits.
That's right.
So many people live paycheck to paycheck. In addition to the demographic breakdown, I was thinking about when I sit here in this very chair with Sheriff Darren Hall, and he talks about the demographic in the jail. And he'll tell you that the vast majority of those behind bars, you can clip that back on, the vast majority of those behind bars are either suffering from a mental illness or they're suffering from drug abuse, okay? The very few that are there that don't have one of those issues. I want you, when we come back from this break, to talk a little bit about the percentages you see there, because I think mental illness and drug abuse still is a huge issue, and then getting the treatment for them. We'll be back with more and our guest right after this. Stay with us. Yeah, should we put it right back on?